All right, so Dallas Palmer, he got into a motorcycle accident yesterday. I'm repeatedly told to go to other jurisdictions. Oh, you just need to move. Oh, you need to go here and you need to go there. You need to understand my abilities. What am I capable of and what am I not capable of? Daniel Whitehouse, I called Dallas yesterday and I was able to get a hold of Dallas, which is good. The problem is, Dallas, I was going to try to talk to him. He was busy trying to fix this guy's motorcycle, who turned out to be Daniel Whitehouse. So Daniel, he, like many people, when I first start talking to him, he wants to say a lot of nice things, good intentioned and all that. And he does mean good intentions, all that. But the important thing is that I don't need to hear your repeated intentions. That's good. That's good. I'm glad that you're saying those things. Now let's see if you can keep your word. Now we need to understand a little something about autism. Well, he wants to tell me that his daughter's got the same thing I do. So he understands. No, 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 no. No, you don't understand. Just because you know somebody who has Down syndrome doesn't mean that you understand how people treat somebody with Down syndrome. It's not the same. Now, he says he's got Tourette syndrome too, which, well, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Now, I do want to stop here to say, last night, he did finally start to listen. He needed to stop being nice. He needed to stop being nice, shut the hell up, and listen. I'm going to say that again. He needed to stop being nice and shut the hell up and listen. Every single person who has told me that they're a good listener has shown me that they're not a good listener. They're a good interrupter. They're a good talker. But they're just talking. They don't know anything about the situation. Why are they giving advice? When you say that you'll listen, why are you talking about yourself? Why are you changing the subject? Now, he explained last night social conditioning. We're socially conditioned. Yes, I'm well aware. I speak about that. I need others to speak about that. And that's what I'm hoping will happen today. Although, with him not getting back a hold of me and his phone going straight to voicemail, I don't know what's up. I told him to look at the Natalie Bollinger stuff and to listen to that, and then to actually look at the real evidence. Ain't no such thing as looking at the real evidence. Not unless I get to meet him in person, and that requires coordination, which is what was lacking yesterday. When he called and he wanted to know what's up, I started to explain it. He wanted to interrupt me repeatedly and make the same suggestion over and over again. He literally interrupted me 8 times just to tell me I needed to go to Manzanita. Now, this is based on his line of questioning, which has nothing to do with my situation or my story, or listening to my story, or helping. Good intentioned as it may be, it is entirely 100% dismissive to the victim. And every time that I tried to explain that to him, I had to stop every time he did that, because he wasn't letting me get in half a sentence. Like, he's Shannon Alvarado bad, and she's really bad. All right, he was not quite that bad, because last night, I finally got him to at least listen a little bit. Now, Shannon Alvarado, she's not hearing anything that you're saying. She's got something in her head all the time that she wants to say. All right? She just wants to voice her opinion, her opinion, her opinion, her opinion. And then everybody want to say, oh, well, you shouldn't care about anybody's opinion. You absolutely should. People will literally kill you over their opinion. And no matter what, this guy was barbarian, or he's talking over me, or he was literally bullying me, is what he was doing. Now I understand that I should set up the scenario for you. Since I've been in this town, they've been trying to pawn me off on either Tillamook County, south of here, or pawn me off on Astoria, next town over. Oh, well, you need to go to Astoria. Well, you know what happens if I go to Astoria? Astoria tells me I'm in the wrong jurisdiction. I need to go to Warrenton. I come to Warrenton, they try to send me to Astoria. Astoria tells me I'm in the wrong jurisdiction. I need to go back to Warrington. Or Warrenton. Same thing that happened in Tillamook. Same thing in Hood River. That's because nobody advocates for the disabled. When this guy's saying that he understands because his daughter's autistic, and I start over trying to explain to him, I'm trying to explain to you about autism and how it's used to harm us, and you're pretending you know everything. No, you don't. I'm not your daughter, dude. I'm not your daughter. You're changing the subject and making it about you. Your connection is invalid. You don't know me, as he stated much later. Well, I don't really know you. Of course you don't know me. I don't need you to tell me that you don't know me. You could have gotten to know me by listening. All of his ideas were for him to literally interrupt me every single sentence and talk over me. Then he wanted to ask questions. Now here's where we got a real issue. I was trying to explain to him that I was in Warrenton. I was trying to save gas. I was trying to conserve money, that I had a bunch of calls that I needed to make today. And I'd started making those calls yesterday and was blown off. And I did record that it was blown off. And I needed help turning it in. That I could not do it alone. But all he wanted to do was talk and interrupt me. His line of question is, well, do you know anybody there? I explained that I don't have anyone here, or in Tillamook, or anyone else for that matter. Anywhere else for that matter. He's like, well, why don't you go to Manzanita? Go to Manzanita. I was trying to explain what was going on, but he wouldn't come off it. He was just going to badger and bully and berate me like a police officer does. And he didn't see any problem with this. So when he started going off on his own stories, I'm like, please, sir, will you please listen to what I'm saying instead of literally interrupting me every sentence? You telling me about your daughter does not mean that you understand. I am not your daughter. We are not the same. We are not all the same. Your daughter is not a 42-year-old adult who is being ignored, who has no family supports, who is victimized repeatedly every day. That includes the neglect, the financial situation, the fact that these mandated reporters seem to think that it's not mandated that they do their job as mandated reporters. Claire spoke up about that. So we're going to play something from Claire. This is going to be a few minutes. She does do a bit of talking, not nearly as much as me. We had to do it in a very difficult manner. Claire Jordan. What she's not understanding is that we have to do this together. Together, we need to turn this in.
So I'm in my car. Hang on. So I'm in my car. Hang on a second. I'm in one of the canyons, so I just have to get all the way back up to Estes where I work. Anyway, yeah, I absolutely understand those situations, and I'd love to testify about it, because I had so many situations where basically, like, it's like the Stanford prison experiment on a massive scale out there. It's just fucking disgusting. People drive people to madness over, like, power and control. Like, they really get a kick out of controlling the homeless population out there, but then they don't actually want to do anything about it, and so they just push people until they break. And then when they break, they're like, oh, see, this is why you can't function in society. It's like, oh, okay, so you're going to torture me for 4 months, use all my resources, send me in endless loops to go check out other resources, other places, until I have less than I started with. Take away every basic necessity of living and comfort. Maslow's hierarchy of basic needs, man. Like, no shelter, no food. People are going to lose their shit. And you start treating people like they have less than animal rights, you're going to end up with a lot of people that are basically gone feral, and now you're cornering them and threatening them. Of course they're going to fight back. That's not a mental health problem. That's torture. My problem is that the state that my ex left me in, and his, landlord or whatever, I couldn't quite form proper sentences, and I kept having heat stroke, so I'm really not even sure if the words that I thought I was saying were the words coming out of my mouth. And I can't tell because no one cared to pay attention enough. So I could have, I thought I was saying stuff like, I need an ice pack before I have a seizure, I need water, I'm having heat stroke, and I need help. And I would say that over and over and over, and they'd be like, ma'am, you need to calm down or I'm calling the cops. And then they would stare at me with like a weirdly smug, I thought I was saying stuff like, I need an ice pack before I have a seizure, I need water, I'm having heat stroke, and I need help. And I would say that over and over and over, and they'd be like, ma'am, you need to calm down or I'm calling the cops. And then they would stare at me with like a weirdly smug smile, like, what are you even saying? And it's really disturbing because some of these like emergency workers and mandatory reporters are supposed to be trained to see something like that. Like, this basic shit, like how to recognize a stroke, or, somebody having a health crisis, not a mental crisis, or, like somebody starts speaking gibberish and half their face isn't moving. Maybe you should get them to the fucking ER instead of laughing at them and being like, well, if you don't want my help, I'm out of here, which is what happened to me in Vancouver, Washington in a fucking parking ride.
Like I said, nationwide. She was in Vancouver. Who else is in Vancouver? Rebecca Gross, Nickel Foley. Both these women can teach you a lot about human trafficking. By the way, there are different forms of human trafficking. Many different forms. Systemic abuse is a type of human trafficking, just so you know. Systemic trafficking for the forms of forced labor or slave labor, such as chain gangs in the South. Yeah, these are based on the same laws that are used to harm the homeless today. These were what is known as the Black Codes. A lot of laws that make it illegal to do things that really have victimless crimes. No one's actually harmed. Cursing in front of a woman or a child is part of the Black Codes. Vagrancy, not having a job, illegal in many states still, part of the Black Codes. In some places, moving is still against the law. That's right, it's illegal to move in some states. Claire's kids were human trafficked by the state, same way Christopher Weaver's were.
I absolutely know that I have brain damage from multiple rounds of heat stroke because people were denying even so much as water to people that looked homeless. And that's insane.
When I was
There's
in
states
Virginia.
where that's illegal to deny somebody a glass of water. And so it just kind of blew my fucking mind that people were just like torturing the homeless population to the point where they break, and then just modifying their own memory, I guess. Like, oh, they were always like that. See, that's why we don't help you. It's like, yeah, but, you can go 4 fucking months holding your shit together and functioning like a normal person, politely trying to seek out resources for, not to be homeless.
42.
Living in a hotel or whatever, and then if you're acting well put together, then they act like you must just be lazy or trying to con them. and so they don't want to help you because you're not in crisis enough. And then when you finally hit crisis enough, they call the police because now you're just acting crazy, or, like here in Colorado, I was told that I was going to get some help. I got all the paperwork they asked for. I showed up. I made, promises at the hotel that I was staying at that they were going to get a payment from this local resource. And I show up like an hour before I'm supposed to have this all done, with a one last piece of paper that they asked for. And suddenly they had changed their mind and decided that they had things that they thought were a better idea for my family, except for they didn't. The things that they suggested were so overly complicated and worse, and would make things worse for me and my children.
They literally would only
it was
force
mind-blowing, and so then I spent 45 minutes.
They literally forced her to do things that they knew would screw her over and make her look like a bad parent so that they could use that against her in court. And she's going to explain that in just a minute.
45 minutes talking to this director about it and hammering out the details, and then finally coming back around again to the point where it was like, oh yeah, just a hotel voucher would actually be the best thing. And this lady jumps in. She's like, okay, well, I still think that my idea is better, and that's what we're going to go with. And I had a freaking autistic meltdown about it because, it instantly made me feel suicidal because their suggestions, instead of a hotel voucher to bridge a little bit of a gap for me, was
mine was over a hotel voucher too.
Go into a safe house, quit my job, so that I could go into this specific shelter. And I was just like, why would I do that for 2 weeks? And then try to pick up all the pieces after quitting my job? Are you insane? So, hang on a second. Anyway, I had a narcissistic meltdown about it, which is what I did in Tillamook, after trying to tell my story, in 45-minute chunks, and then having, realized after 45 minutes of talking to somebody that they haven't been listening to a damn thing that I'm saying, and having that multiple times in a row, and blowing away a whole day or three to do it, that it's hard to even function. It's hard to track. I get so worked up about it, just thinking about it, that I lose where I'm at talking about things. But then in the office up here in Colorado, I was like, God, you're making me suicidal. I just want to drive off a cliff. You're not paying attention. And they're like, oh, you said the S word. And they called the cops, and I swear to God, 10 of them showed up and to talk about why I'm causing a scene. And I was like, because I just wasted 4 hours of my day trying to explain something to somebody, only to have them pull the rug out from underneath me and basically prove that they weren't listening in the fucking first place, because what they responded with had nothing to do with anything that I said.
What they forced her to do. Forced her. This is illegal. She needs to be allowed the right information. They lied to her, and they, just as they lie to me, I record everything. Everything. There's a reason for that. I'm tired of my friends ending up in pine boxes. Oh, wait. When you're homeless, they don't put you in a pine box. They do the same thing that the Nazis did with their victims. Incinerate them, which destroys all of the evidence. You get to see through all this how we're treated differently. But also, you get to see how Claire herself does exactly the same things to me that she complains everybody else does. Talk over me. When we assigned time to listen to her, I listened intently. I kept my mouth shut. And I tried to put myself in her shoes, in her position. I tried to imagine myself in her shoes and her situation. I also know the statistics. This is my job in Boulder, Colorado. to know how likely my loved ones were to be victimized. How much more likely they were to be murdered than anyone else in the country by a lot. So, I was reading an article yesterday, I think, about how per percentage of the population being as homeless are at 0.18% of the population. And 61% of those killed by police are homeless. And we also consider that homeless people are killed by people in houses at a rate of 2 to 1 over people in houses who were killed overall. About 61% of those killed by police alone. That's all. And how many of those go unreported? How many? How many of those were not all over the news? When they are, you call the homeless person mentally ill. The news says, a mentally ill homeless man. A mentally ill homeless man. Situations that you say, why didn't they save that person's life? Well, there's also the fact that Claire here is another shining example of the fact that even if you're a pretty white girl, you're not always going to be young. The average income for males in 2018 was almost $50,000. Today it's a little over $37,000. That's right. $12,000 less per year. $12,000 less. That's $1,000 per month less money. And how much is rent going up? A lot of people wanted to assume that I just needed some monetary help. No, that's not it. And the same thing with Claire. Yeah, she does need monetary help. They don't care if you don't have any money. They make you jump through a bunch of hoops to go to a bunch of services that don't do anything. That's what you idiots aren't understanding. And when you're busy talking over us, you have resources. You have friends. You have family who are helping you instead of treating you like you're a retard. And most of us who are autistic, our families have learned that they can talk over us and they can make everything our fault. They can bully us and berate us and literally force us to do things that are against our best interest because, well, who's going to stop them? Who cares about the laws? You say, oh, look at all those people protesting. That's right. And each one of those people protesting has somebody that they know who has an issue. Are they helping to go through the legal process? And are they making calls every day to try to get this heard? It doesn't take much to try to get the process started, but you have to be willing to listen to the victim so that you know what's going on. You have to stop assuming that they're retarded and something that you looked up fucking in 5 minutes on Google is magically going to fix it. No, they've already been through 6 years of the runaround. That's what they've been through. Yesterday I had some phone calls that I needed to make and I needed to record and I needed a safe place to do it. I was planning on coming here to the library and recording those calls and trying to meet up with some of these places. Let me show you what I'm looking at here. This is what I'm working with. Okay. The cans all got to go into a bag. I dug a whole bunch of those out. It took me forever, but it's more money, you know. But this is, I have to buy stuff like this so that I can try to at least charge up my electronics in my vehicle and also be able to charge up my extra battery charger, because sometimes I might use the battery almost all night long to try to make sure that my electronics are charged up for my protection. What have I been saying that I need from the very start? A friend to listen, to understand, and help me to turn it in. When I say it, every single crime. And I need them to look at it to actually see how much of it there is, at least. Now, this BS that these government officials are pulling, where they're saying, oh, I believe you, I don't have to look at it, I believe you. No, literally, legally, they have to take a look at my living conditions. Instead of downplaying them, when they say, these are mandated reporters, by the way, people like, let me find the paperwork for that lady. I have her phone number, and it is pretty important to call her. She is a mandated reporter. And no matter what state, what county, or what jurisdiction you are in, if a person has to flee abuse by law enforcement, literally has to flee abuse by systemic abuse, you should probably look up those terms, systemic abuse and abuse of power. I've got videos and audio recordings from just the last few days. I had issues because Gmail wouldn't let me hook up my phone, the new phone that I have, up to Gmail. It was doing this password protect thing, and it wanted to go to this email address for this phone, and it would only allow me to verify it with this phone right here, which has been in repair at Dan's Repair in it's actually right behind the Walmart in Warrenton. Alright, so yesterday, why is it that I allowed this man to bully me into going? Because he didn't see it as bullying. In his mind, somehow magically, if I went to Warrenton right now, I was hoping that if I wasted my time, I already knew it was going to be a waste of time. I already knew that. I already knew that the situation was going to end up having something thrown into the works, and he wasn't going to listen to understand. One of the phone calls I made to him, because he wasn't on time at all, I don't know what he thought, but I do know that when I was trying to explain to him what help I needed, he wanted to interrupt me and say, well, do you have any people there or any support there? No, I don't. That's what I'm trying to get. I don't really have that anywhere. And I had to explain that to him because, see, here's the thing. He kept on interrupting me and telling me to go to Manzanita, go to Manzanita, go to Manzanita, go to Manzanita. If nothing else, it's worth going to Manzanita, at least to meet the guy, even though it took a lot of my money, that literally all the things that I told him and showed him, oh, get rid of them hairs right there. I guess the barber didn't get them all. You know, at least I did get to meet him at 11 o'clock last night. He had me leave, promised, you know, if I went to Manzanita, he was going to come talk to me. Now, Dallas was supposed to be on his way to work in Astoria to go fishing, but instead he was trying to work on Daniel Whitehead's bike. It's a motorcycle, a 79 Honda. And from the sounds of it, there was some flooding issues, and they needed to... Not that I've ever worked on small engines. Hondas are simple. They're the most complicated, simple pieces of crap on the planet, though. Anyway, because of the situation, it took me about 3 hours to drive down there because of summer traffic. The other thing is, he was still busy when I got there. When he did finally call back, his family were just yelling in the background. You know, I literally couldn't hear my own voice over the top of them. It was so loud. So I was trying to get him to just talk to me for like 5 minutes in private, somewhere where there's not a bunch of noise in the background, because it is difficult to pay attention. Now, like a lot of people, he wanted to do the nice thing and make sure that I did give him the gratitude and attention needed, and be thankful for the things that he did for me. He bought me a pack of cigarettes that I was going to reimburse him for when he got there. He also showed up with a lady named Anne, who used to be a teacher, and she was explaining kind of about the mandatory reporting thing, but mostly what she did is what I needed him to do, actually. What I need any one of my friends or family to do. When somebody is talking over me the way that he was, nonstop, just doing it over and over and over again, I need somebody to stop them and say, hey, time out. Let him speak. And she interrupted him. See, where I'm trying to explain my story to people, and they keep interrupting me, and then I have to stop and say, hey, you're interrupting me. Now, he did something that many people do when I make mention of that. See, to him, he doesn't see it as rude. He's seeing it from his own point of view, and since he's not listening, he only knows his point of view, so it's all just assumptions and opinions and speculation. Now, you guys know I love people. I just am annoyed by their stupidity. Now, here's the important thing. This teacher she's gone through the mandated reporter training. Former teacher, I should say. She's retired, doesn't maintain her teaching license, so she doesn't have to do that job anymore. But she did the right thing. See, when she said, hey, you need to stop and listen to him, you need to stop interrupting him and listen to him. Daniel, you need to stop interrupting him. And eventually, after probably 5 or 6 times of her interrupting him, he finally started to listen a bit. And, he did keep on every time that I talked, getting stuck on a little part of what I was saying, and then he would have to blurt it out like a child on a sugar rush. Like a squirrel looking for nuts. And that's the thing about dealing with people's assumptions and them wanting to do all the talking. I probably said to him about 20 times, you listen with your ears, not with your mouth. You listen with your ears and not with your mouth. Also, you don't have to repeatedly interrupt him to say things like, I'm sorry and I believe you. No, those are useless words. That doesn't help me out at all. And what you're doing at that point in time is you're trying to find the perfect time to say things like that. Like, these are your auto-programmed responses. I'm sorry. How about shut up? I know you mean well, but you can't just stop me every fucking sentence and say, you're sorry. Shut the fuck up. I need you to take a mental inventory of what's going on. And the more you say you're sorry, the more time you are wasting of our time. If you interrupt me 20 times to say you're sorry, and you interrupt me 20 times to start going off about your daughter or your uncle or your cousin, or you want to spend 20 minutes telling me about how I should look up this book and look up that book and read this and read that, and you're literally not hearing anything. All you are doing during all of that time that you are busy talking, you are not listening. You don't know what's going on. You've heard one tiny little bit and you've got a bunch of assumptions, and then automatically you know better than the retard. And that's how you treat us. You treat us like we're retarded. Just like Claire Jordan. You say, oh, well, you need to know your rights and stand up for your rights. Well, I absolutely do, and I am victimized greatly for it, and so is Claire. And that's because, well, people like Daniel need to be taught how to listen. You know how horrible that is? A lot of people who have PTSD, as soon as you start talking about what's going on, your intention is to turn in the predators, right? And the reason to turn in the predators is so they can't hurt you or others again. So there are consequences for them. When there are no consequences whatsoever, then people know they can do it again. And they get more brazen, just like Officer Waylon Lolatai. Just like Alicia Bollinger and Ted Bollinger. Just like police nationwide. There's laws that are meant to protect us, but the people who are supposed to do those jobs are not doing it. They're doing everything they can to go out of their way to prevent the victim from having an honest court date. Every single person who works for the United States government takes part in this. They take part in protecting their buddies, protecting their coworkers, when they're mandated reporters. When they say that they believe you, if they believe you, then they have to turn it in right away. If they tell you that they have something else going on, it doesn't matter if they have something else going on. What they're doing is they are brushing you off instead of doing their legally mandated reporter job. They don't want to do it. They don't want to do the job. And that got Natalie Bollinger killed. It also got me killed, by the way. Because you bully us to suicide by talking over us and telling us what to do and giving us a polite suggestion that you won't fucking come off of. And if I don't do what you want, then you're going to be a piece of shit to me like I'm not trying. I wasted a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of money that I don't have to go down there and meet him yesterday. Now, the insinuations was that if I went to Manzanita, that I would get help. That somehow me going to Manzanita, for what fucking reason, I don't know, he wouldn't come off it, and he literally wouldn't listen. Like everything that I said, I was trying to explain what was going on down here, and he couldn't stop interrupting me to tell me to come here. Now, he said, well, that's because you said you don't have any connections there. I'm like, yeah, you asked if I had any connections here. You interrupted me to ask me that question. But the problem is he wouldn't come off it. And also, I can't say anything about him interrupting me, or he says, what about all the times you interrupted me? Every time I interrupted you, it was to say, please listen. Please listen. Every single time that I interrupted him, it's because he hijacked what I was saying and made it about him. Made it about his daughter. Tried to insinuate that he knew everything that I'm trying to tell him already because his daughter. You don't know anything about my situation, or how this affects me, or how it's going to affect your daughter in the future. Because the same things that are used to harm me can be used to harm her. You get to hear the situation with Claire. You think she wants to live that? Of course she doesn't. She's autistic too. She has Asperger's. But here's the thing. Asperger's needs to be separate from autism. They're not the same thing. And to treat grown adults like they're schizophrenic pants poopers because you shove them in the same box as people who are, well, low functioning and victimized because they're low functioning, victimized because they can't defend themselves. And then you use the stereotypes of those people to harm all of the rest of us. Why are these mandated reporters refusing to do their jobs? Why are they refusing to look at evidence and refusing to listen to the victim? Why are they talking about themselves and their families and how they're too busy for this and too busy for that? By law, it don't matter. And they need to make adequate reparations for their victims. If you're a black person in a house in Boulder, Colorado, and police make the mistake of thinking that you're homeless and harm you, $98,000 went to Sammy Leon Lawrence IV. Oh, poor him. He was victimized because he was black. No, 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 no. He wasn't victimized for being black. The difference between the harm against him and the harm against me by those officers is that with me, they were trying to frame me as a violent schizophrenic. With Sammy Leon Lawrence IV, he hadn't been on TV. He wasn't famous yet, but I was still all over the news. All across Colorado. So Sammy Leon Lawrence IV had people who felt bad for him enough to actually help him, and he had the backing of BLM. And the same thing with Zaid Atkinson. Same thing with Elijah McClain. Elijah McClain was autistic, had Asperger's. Police killed him for it. With an injection, the same injection that they gave me for trying to turn in police. This is immoral. And it is systemic abuse. This is not acceptable. For police to gaslight at-risk adults, and for all of the services here to send us in circles, guaranteeing that we'll be harmed, and then literally forcing us to do things that are against our best interest, and they know it. But if you don't do what they say, they'll victimize you. Look at what was done to Claire. Look at what TCCHC did to me and TFCC did to me. Claire is not the only one. When I spoke up to the police about what Claire was going through and how immoral and illegal it is, they didn't care. They still sent me to TFCC. You get to hear how every single mandated reporter in this state refuses to lift a finger to actually help us how we need. We need a voice, and we don't have that. All of the police are our enemies. All of them will work together if one of us is harmed. Oh. Oh.
Okay, so, this runs that.
Obviously, there's too many children outside of the library to actually talk about many of these things. So that's one of the things about having to do this in public. When you guys send me to the library to do these things, you're not thinking straight. You've got these great ideas in your head that will fix everything magically, and I can magically do it there. No, I can't. You want to pretend that I can do all these things in the library? I can't. I have to record everything for my safety and the safety of those around me. The police have outright lied to me on multiple occasions, including that Nebraska State Patrol. Today, just like yesterday, he's not calling back in a reasonable amount of time. Although 2 phone calls that I made yesterday, he did call in a reasonable amount of time. Now, a lot of people want to say the nice things that they're expected to say, but that doesn't help us. A bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. He got stuck on the word meme. Apparently, it's called a meme. But literally, he got stuck on that for 5 minutes. I was making an important point. That important point was that a pretty meme doesn't fix anything. And I was going to follow it up with an example of how harmful that is. How it dismisses the victim. And show actual training courses on it, if he was willing to look. But he couldn't come off. And he was gonna ask me what I needed, and as soon as I open my mouth, the first thing he does is interrupt me. Then he wants to ask questions, and then he wants to make decisions based on the answers to his questions, but his questions are way off base. The reason that I am here is because I had things going on here, and he wouldn't shut up to find that out. Now, obviously, at the library, me having to make these calls, me having to try to coordinate with other people, with all of my resources taken away, and none of you care. You're too busy talking about yourselves. He got angry and irate with me, and I'm going to tell you about 3 situations with that. The second time that I tried explaining what is important about autism, because he's obviously ignorant of the situation because of the suggestions he's making. And I'm not saying that as a rude thing. I'm trying to educate him so that he reduces the harm that he's doing to me. I don't have the money to keep running around and doing all this stuff, and it costs me more money than he spent to go there. I also had to drop off everything that I was doing yesterday, hoping that this man would, well, he inferred that he would be there if I showed up. He's like, call me when you get there. Well, how about we set up a time that you will be there? And then you make the appointment. How about a time? And that is 100% how you can tell whether or not somebody cares about you or not. Whether or not they're taking it seriously. If they're taking it seriously, they'll set up a time. And they'll set it up soon. They won't postpone it for a week or 2 or 3. If you're being harmed, you need to turn it in immediately. And the police will victimize you if you're homeless. Meanwhile, someone in a house can victimize us for years, like the Bollinger family. They had all of the resources needed to defend themselves, and I was denied all of them. I did the things that I did because there was no other way to do it. It was out of desperation. And just so you know, the way that he treats me, the way that Dallas treats me, the way that Claire treats me, they all treat me exactly the same way that the police treat me. Exactly the same way that all of them have complained about the police treating people. Using the fact that police did wrong things to them as an excuse to do wrong things to me. Claire is doing exactly the same thing that the police did to her. She's doing those things to me, though. Daniel Whitehouse, when I tried to bring up the fact that he kept on interrupting me and talking over me, he says, well, what about all the times you interrupted me? That's because you are going off on a bunch of tangents about yourself and a bunch of things that are not related to my situation. You don't know anything about my situation because you can't shut up. And then, of course, last night, he was too busy trying to be socially nice. Let me show you the bag of stuff that he bought for me that I'm supposed to be grateful for. He wanted to go off about food. I'm trying to tell him what's going on and coordinate, and he's wanting to go off about food and shove food at me. I'm going to get you some food. I'm going to get you some food. Fine. Dude, I've eaten today, and I have food in my vehicle. Please come off it. Come off it. Come off it. Be an adult and come off it. I don't know what you're on. What I do know is that you need to come off it and listen to the victim. You listen with your ears and not with your mouth. And he wanted to get offended when I'd say that. When I tried to explain about the pretty memes, he was highly offended that I would use the word meme instead of meme. And he wanted to be as condescending as he could. I want you to hear you say it. I want to hear you say it. Say meme. Say meme. It's a meme. Say a meme. I'm like, dude, please come off it. Please come off this word. This is so fucking trivial. This is like the stupidest thing in the world for you to start talking over a victim about. This is the stupidest thing for you to get stuck on like a crackhead. There's no carpet here to serve, dude. Stop. Now, he is real heavy on, well, Making sure he's not having to deal with somebody who's on drugs. He doesn't want to deal with druggies any more than I do. But also the things that he wanted to complain that druggies do, he's literally doing those things to me. Literally acting in the same fashion. See, it doesn't come down to whether someone's on drugs or not, or whether they're drunk or not. It comes down to whether or not they respect you or not. Well, not always respect, is it? Sometimes it comes down to how much they want to do the ditty with you. The more attractive you are, the more likely people are to listen. That is a fact. The people who are the most likely to get help from social services or the police are good looking and have housing. Some sort of housing. See, while the Bollinger family was able to get help setting up a bunch of stuff and get a lot of money, over $20,000. That's just to Ted Bollinger. He was paid over $20,000 right after his daughter that he raped and molested was killed. You know what happened to me? Police repeatedly tried to trump up charges on me while the gaslighting continued from both the police, the Bollinger family, the public. My friends are telling me that people are threatening to kill them and their families, posting up pictures online of their old houses, and then blaming me and being hateful at me and saying, oh, my kids, my kids, my kids. I told you this is a possibility it would happen. Now this guy, he wants to talk over me and tell me he's been there, he knows, he understands. No, shut the fuck up. You don't have details you need to know if you're going to help me. Interrupting me to tell me you understand just means that I have to start over because you're not listening. Now, has this guy called back? No, he hasn't. He's doing the same thing that he did yesterday. Oh, if you call me. No. I did call him repeatedly. He didn't get back to me. Oh, by the way, here's with Dallas Palmer. Now, there's details that I'm trying to tell this guy, just like with Claire. Me and Claire, when we were up in the mountains, we agreed that she was going to speak first, and she was going to get 30 minutes. And then I was going to get my turn, and she was going to listen to me without interrupting. And what did she do when it was my turn? Well, she was taking shots the whole time that it was her turn. And by the time it was my turn, she was too drunk to listen, too drunk to come off it, too drunk to stop talking about herself. Difficult. Police were supposed to have an interview room for me to do this stuff, but instead they keep sending me to the library. I'm like, it's not appropriate to do this at the library.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I guess there's no kids outside. I do try to pay attention to that, because when you have to talk about rape and murder and child molestation, people don't want to hear that stuff. And then when people are, getting shot and murdered, and you have to talk about that stuff and your first-hand experience with it, people look at you funny, you're crazy. And then they're afraid for their kids. They only hear half of what you've said, and they've already jumped to the wrong conclusions. So I want to thank you all here at the library for being real nice to me and working with me the best that you can and understanding that.
Of course. Thank you for your thanks.
Absolutely.
I'm just getting some donations over.
I'm trying to get a the gentleman who lives in Manzanita, he said he'd help me. I'm hoping that he'll take a look at my videos and understand how inappropriate it is for anybody to send me to the library to do this.
Yeah.
They also keep sending me to mental health, and they're supposed to have something similar for victims of abuse, but they won't allow me access to it. And if they do allow me access, then they remain there talking over me the whole time, and it's only for 30 minutes.
Understood.
Yeah. All right, I'm done yakking at you.
No worries, you can talk. I'm just getting stuff unpacked. I always try to make it look nice so whoever, needs it feels like they get like a little shopping experience, not just, oh, there's stuff on a shelf. But
Are them boots free?
Yes, anything that's on this or in this box are free to take. So
If they're
they
9
work
wide
for
to
you-
an 11, I want to take a pair.
Let me take a These are
8.5.
I'm not sure, actually. I can't read the label. 9.5, I think. European 44. They're Vibram soles. They're nice.
Black fishermen repeatedly confronted by white people for using lake in. All right, I don't know why they sent me that. Oh well, I'll figure it out.
Feel free to check out.
Yes, ma'am. Let me set my phone down. All right, they're both the same size, it looks like.
Perfect. Well, if either of them fits, you should take a pair.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely, they're military style. Yeah, these might actually be one of the ones that they sell down at the commissary. I know when I was in the delayed entry program, I could use my card to go down and get military stuff with the, what do you call it? The commissary on the military. I just never went. Too bad there's no socks.
Yeah.
Oh wait, there might be. I don't care if they're pink. No, just children's clothing. And some sort of weird lightsaber.
Yeah, those go like over the top of baby play mats, so they have like mobiles and stuff.
You know what's horrible about being an adult?
What's that?
You're not allowed to have an imagination or people pretend you're crazy.
I know. I was just saying to my husband, like the boys section of Walmart, why can't I get a T-shirt with a Stegosaurus on on a tractor in my size? They make them for little boys. I want a T-shirt with dinosaurs.
Well, you know what the great thing about being a parent is?
Mm-hmm. You get
can
to
be
buy
crazy.
them. Yep.
You get to use your imagination and teach kids all sorts of cool stuff by using their imagination.
Oh, yeah.
Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla both said that it's actually not the math that's important, it's
Yep.
the imagination.
Mm-hmm. It's being able to have, what do they call it? Lateral thinking. Where most adults look at a paper clip and they say, okay, what are some things you can think of to do with the paper clip? And they're like, well, it's this big, it's made out of metal. And kids are like, what if the paper clip was 8 feet tall? What could you do with an 8 feet tall paper clip? What if the paper clip was made out of wood? You could break it up and burn it. They
For
don't have.
people who are autistic and they look at a paper clip, a lot of them, the first thing they start thinking about is what can I bend it into?
Yep.
And then how is it made?
Mm-hmm.
What are its properties? And we're
Yep.
constantly playing with our environment and imagining stuff in our environment. So our brains are always moving. And
Yep.
that's where most of us end up with a lot of us. Like 30% of us have stuttering issues. And that's
Because your mind's moving faster than your mouth can.
Yep, and also people tend to talk over us while we're talking, which derails the train. And a lot of people think, oh, well, that can be fixed by medication. In the history of the Asperger's diagnosis, that's never worked for a single one of us. But when I say, hey, I need help, when I'm stuck out in public and all the traffic and the semis are going by, and I've got people saying, hey, you need to speak up, I can't understand you over traffic. I'm like, yeah, see, and when I tell you that I'm having that problem, you blow it off like it's insignificant. Thank you for being understanding, by the way. I was here over a week, and I have been through the ringer at the hands of all the services here, and the ones here in Warren too.
Yeah.
keep trying to send me to Astoria to get help with turning in issues that happen here in Warrenton, which is wrong of them to do, because as soon as I go to Astoria, the first thing that I'm going to have to deal with is, oh, well, that happened in a different jurisdiction. Let's start over fresh here.
Right.
We're
So
gonna,
everything that you've tried to work on.
yeah. So mandated reporters refuse to do their jobs. My friend Claire is going through the same thing. Apparently, we're only mentally ill when it makes it easy to railroad us. Meanwhile, mentally ill is not a diagnosis. Of the 512 diagnoses in the DSM-5, the term mentally ill,
It's not in there. It's an umbrella term. It's not a
it
diagnosis.
is. It's used to blanket people, and some people use it as the, oh, well, you can't hurt me. I'm mentally ill. I'm protected. Well, we are, but not that way.
Yeah.
And then there's other people who want to use it to dismiss you entirely. Oh, well, don't listen to her. She's mentally ill. Me and my little sister had to deal with that all growing up. Me and my little sister, the heaviest out of my entire family. Every time my mom would start a fight with me or my little sister, it's, you're mentally ill. Oh my God, Mom. Tara has PTSD, and I have PTSD. We both got PTSD from being in the system because our parents couldn't stay off the drugs. So it's like, I don't understand how they want to judge me for how my life has gone and the things that I've been forced to do without family support.
Yeah.
There was a point to that, but I lost it because OCD, the American flag waving, caught my attention.
Yeah.
And I have to be afraid when I'm in public because there's so many Karens out now that I can't look at anyone's direction
Yeah.
without being afraid that someone's going to call the cops on some creeper. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not pretty. I'm sorry I smell. I shouldn't have to apologize for being born, but I'm sorry for that too.
Yeah.
Please don't shoot me, and please don't have me shot by the police for being mentally ill and creepy.
I hope your friend in Manzanita is able to get you some help.
I don't know about friend. The first time I ever talked to him was yesterday, but I'm hoping so too. There's a lady who was with him. Her name's Ann, and she used to be a teacher. And she was able to do what it is that the example that I try to set is, all right, whenever I'm interrupted, I need someone, when these professionals try interrupting me, when I try to give them details of what's going on, I need someone to interrupt them back and let them know how wrong that is. So Ann was there last night, and when I was trying to explain to him all day yesterday how him interrupting me prevented him from hearing, and that he needed to listen with his ears and not with his mouth. Well, when I finally got to meet him in person, his teacher lady was with him, and she did what I've needed the whole time. She kept interrupting him and saying, you need to listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I should stop bugging you.
You're good.
How we doing?
Pretty good.
Hi.
Hello.
You want to switch out and get some time in the fresh air? Or?
Whatever you want to do. If you're comfortable, you stay put.
I want to thank you too. I thanked her already. You guys have been really, really good to me, and I'm sorry that all of these places keep sending me to the library because it's not appropriate to do this here. You know, the subject matter, and, you know, I try to say the important stuff that probably shouldn't be said in front of people's kids when I know there's no kids here, but it's a library and people are quiet, and I don't know who just walked in the door. Thank you though, you rock. And that gentleman the guy who works here with the, he worked with animals. I'm trying to remember the place he worked at before this. I wanted to thank him too. Is he gonna be here today?
I think he's in some meetings this morning, but
All right.
he'll be available this afternoon.
But I want to thank y'all for helping me with that, and I'm sorry I'm being pawned off on you guys for stuff that's not appropriate for the library.
We appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. All right, let's get these military boots to work. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yes. No, 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 no. Yeah, even changing shoes is a workout. Anyway, many of these people that I'm angry at, I'm glad that in some of these instances there was somebody else there to tell them how harmful they were being. And I'm thankful for Ann last night for telling Daniel how harmful he was being. When I tried to explain to Daniel what it is that I had literally had to set my entire day off for, because I was hoping if I did what he asked, maybe then possibly he might listen, and it became a pain in the butt. Now, he did spend some money on me and got me some food, and then when he got me the food, he wanted to stop a couple of times during the conversation because he wanted to, how do I call it, or what's it called, the pat on the head or the pat on the back. He got me food, he got me food, he got me food. Is there anything else I need? He got me food. While he's doing this, I'm trying to explain to him, like, I need you to come off it and listen to what I'm telling you. But he wanted to continually change the subject. Everybody I try to talk to about this, like Claire was saying, even if they do listen, 45 minutes, everything that you said, at the end of 45 minutes, they showed that they didn't hear a word that you had to say. I'm gonna make another video for helping Claire. I got a Walmart card here that I got to get set up to hopefully make a GoFundMe. Do you need help with that? I don't have help with that. Libraries are supposed to be quiet. And they are pretty well quiet, even this one. But I'm going to go in and you'll get to hear some voices. And it'll help you to understand that there are other people at the library. This library is tiny. The picture on the front cover of this is the Warrenton Library. The one video that I got to make since I got here was here at the library, and it took 4 or 5 hours to be able to do that. I got thousands of videos. I got thousands of pieces of evidence that need to be heard, including a lot of people that do the same thing that Daniel did and Claire did. But also you get to see how people did it to them as well. And many of them, after they do that to me, their excuse for why it's okay to do it to me is that other people did it to them. Or when they interrupt me over and over and over again when they're supposed to be helping me. Their idea of helping me is to talk over me, and they want to talk for hours, and they expect short answers out of me. They don't want to hear details. They don't want to look at evidence. And the mandated reporters don't have a choice. They refuse to look at the evidence, say that they believe you. And then if they believe you, they're supposed to turn it in right away. Am I incorrect about this? But no, they want proof. Meanwhile, they won't look at the proof. They say, oh, well, I believe you. I don't have to see it. I believe you. And then because they didn't look at the evidence and refuse to look at the evidence, they show that they don't believe you or they don't want to do their jobs. If they believe me, then why didn't they do their mandated, legally required job? All right. Now I have 3 phones that work, sort of. Each one to varying degrees. I'll walk in these new shoes and see how well it works. Oh my God, they give me ankle support. Perfect. I'm probably walking like Frankenstein right now. These things got some impact resistance. It's a little bit too much shock up my back, so I'm gonna have to walk slower if I wear these. Oh, you live and you learn. Back when I was younger, these boots would have been perfect. They're comfortable on my feet, there's no doubt about that, but the comfort and impact of my back is far too much. I'm gonna have to take them off. Those shoes back there have an air cushion, right? So they don't have as much impact when you step. This has got a hard rubber sole.
Oh, gosh. This is a lot.
Hello there.
Hello. I came in to see how many people were in here and how busy it was. It was
Not
real
very.
busy earlier. Yeah, it looks like it did calm down a bit.
Oh, yes.
Tried setting my stuff up here the other day. Some of the subject matter I have to talk about isn't appropriate for children. So that's one thing is about being sent to the library when you have to make a bunch of calls to turn in crimes.
Yeah. Now, the art club is over. And then this afternoon is teen zone. But between now and then, there's no children's activity per se going on.
Yeah,
Which doesn't mean there won't be kids in here, but
that's
probably
kind of the
not
point.
that many.
There's a lot of parents, they don't want their kids exposed to that. Like when you're having a conversation about that, you know,
Yeah.
if you've got your own house, you can make the calls from the privacy of your own home. But I don't have the ability to do that. And all the places that I go to, the police station, TFCC,
Are public.
TCCHC, no, these are all places that are telling me to come to the library.
Oh,
I told them it's not appropriate, and I need other people to understand how inappropriate it is. But you know, when you're talking about murder and rape and things like that,
Yeah.
not appropriate for around kids. Also,
well, they're probably thinking of a much larger library than this.
right. That's one of the issues also with my back injuries is they want me to carry, you know, my computer in and out of the library every day. I'm like, my injury's right here on my back, and it's a wedge that's there. So, like, wearing a backpack sits right on that.
Ooh, oh, yeah. I am officially out of here.
Okay, thank you for all you did today and all the days.
The one lady was, she brought in a whole bunch of stuff and she, I don't know, oh, good. She's happy.
We like that.
Well, I know that she is in that story, but
Yeah.
all of her stuff was from here. So,
Do you have your card? No. Or not? There. 10% for Brianna.
All right, I did get it working.
thank you. You too. I will see you next week.
That's right. Thanks.
Are they having a meeting at the moment?
Yeah, there's some kids' activities that are scheduled.
Oh, in that case, I'm gonna leave Josh alone.
Oh. Oh, he's not back. Yeah, he's in his office in a meeting. I don't know if that's cool.
Just gotta ruin all my fun.
Huh?
I said, you just have to ruin all my fun. This is the part where I pretend that I'm schizophrenic and delusional and everything that ever happened wrong in my life must be your fault. And I'll find some reason, either because you're taller than me, or shorter than me, or skinnier than me, or fatter than me, or prettier than me, or lower on the social ladder.
That sounds like a poem.
It could be.
You could write a poem.
I've written lots of really nasty poems just like that. It's mostly about hypocrisy and about how we're all people.
Yeah.
Well, some people are worth less than others, apparently. That's the thing that's taught by the same people who are telling me that we're all equal. I'm like, oh man, can I just give you a hug? Don't squeeze me too hard, my back's messed up. All right, thank you. I'm gonna, if there's room, I'd like to bring in my computer for a few.
Yeah, I think that table's open.
Oh, very cool. Thank you. Get my electronics charged. I've been using up a lot of gas charging it in there.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, there we go. Oh man. I had a lot of video clips I've been checking out with situations where women were either busted cheating or were busted starting a fight between two men by making one of those insinuations. How dare you look my direction? How dare you acknowledge my existence? One of these videos happened in New York. Three guys beat up one dude because he was supposedly doing something that, well, it was all caught on camera. He didn't do any such thing. The lady was just offended. Now, I'm not sure if how y'all remember 5th grade. Some of y'all weren't the dorky kids who were targeted the most. I remember in like 4th or 5th grade, the girls on the playground that all stand around giggling on the side of the basketball court. And, you know, sometimes they'd be pointing and giggling at a boy, and one of them would come over with a note for a boy, or she'd come over and ask him to come over, and then he goes and talks to the girl, and, you know, they become boyfriend and girlfriend if it's the popular kid. But then when you're the dorky kid and the girls do that to you, right? Well, that's about the time that they realize this is about 5th grade, people are really pushing them heavy. Hey, you know, if there's a guy doing something, you kick him as hard as you can in the nuts. That's everybody's go-to. Kick him as hard as you can in the nuts. Well, unless you do it out of nowhere, most guys, their instant reflex is probably the most girly maneuver in our arsenal. We put our knees together and cross them over weird. Protect our boys. It's because it hurts. Yes, people are going to react to you swinging at them or trying to kick them in their parts. So 5th grade, you know, I'd seen probably 4 or 5 kids in special ed that had been the target of the kick to the groin. So when the girls were trying to yell for me to come over and talk to the girls on the side of the basketball court, I didn't want to go. I was pretty sure I was going to get kicked in the nuts. Oh no, we're not going to do that. We wouldn't do that to you, Sean. And I walk over there, and sure enough, I got kicked in the nuts. Yep. How do you justify teaching girls to do that to little boys? To practice physical violence against little boys that didn't do nothing wrong? You pretend that you like somebody so you can kick them in the balls? Why would you do that? Why are we teaching girls that this is okay? Why are we teaching them to victimize lesser men? The kid with the runny nose and the glasses. Or the kid with Tourette syndrome who twitches funny. There was one kid that I knew, he had a growth on the side of his nose. And it wasn't pretty, and people were not nice to him. He was one of the kids got kicked in the nuts. Now, I gotta tell you something, that doesn't always work. There's a kid named Nick, 5th grade. Well, a girl went up to kick him in his private parts, and it didn't drop him to the ground like she expected it to. He did take it. And they kicked her in the exact same place. She went to the hospital. If you can't fight with the boys, don't step up with violence to the boys. Stop assaulting us and then playing victim.